Hello, 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 hello. This is the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
I'm Jason Otero.
I'm Gary LeMaster.
It's good to be back.
It is. You had vacation. Nice, relaxing week in the sun. Although the one day you sent me a picture, it looked like you had lost 37 pounds in just water weight from sweat.
Well, that is a big fact. I definitely did. It was very hot. Did a little cruise with the family for a few days and got some sun, and here I am back in the studio.
Yeah, it's sweatshirt and sweatpants like some kind of weirdo in the middle of summer.
It's cold down here in my underground bunker. But it's good to be back. This is the Ball Card Show, as I said, and we are going to talk to you about ball cards. But first, we have some housekeeping items.
We do have a few.
One of them is kind of a big one that really affects you in no way.
It only affects us.
It only affects us. But after 3 years with the Press Play Podcast Network, we're going to be parting ways. We kind of mutually reached a decision that with just some of the strategies going forward with the network and what we're wanting to do with the show, I think we're going to just take this thing solo. So all the episodes will still be there. We'll still be uploading regularly. We'll just be doing it for ourselves, which will create some new opportunities as well. We're excited about that. And we're appreciative of Press Play to get us going. You know, everyone starts a podcast. Not very many people are doing that going into 4 seasons.
Right.
And I really do think that the network really helped us to stay motivated and disciplined to keep putting content out on a regular basis.
Yeah, I would agree. And like you said, there's nothing nefarious going on. We weren't fired. We didn't quit. It just was time for us to go in a different direction. I think the same thing for the network.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, our goals were not necessarily in conflict with each other, but they weren't necessarily in alignment. So this makes the most sense for everybody, and we wish all the folks over at Press Play nothing but the best and the most success. Continue. If you listen to some of the other podcasts on the network, please continue to do that and support those creators because they work hard. A lot of them work way harder than we do.
Yes.
So continue to support those folks if you have been already.
Yep. I think you said that very well. I don't know that there's anything I need to add to it, which is a rare occasion.
Yeah, it is.
I'm concerned that we now have nothing that is going to be keeping you from saying whatever you want. So I think the network kept us from being canceled in the past, but there are no safeguards in place for whatever's going to come out of your mouth. I'm a little nervous about that.
Well, as Tom Segura has said a few times,
see, this is not a good start.
You can only get canceled if you agree to be canceled.
Yeah,
I don't agree to be canceled ever. So
yeah, and if you're independently wealthy, that works even more.
Yeah,
because you could actually get canceled where like really. I mean, there's some guys out there that really wish they didn't get canceled. I do know that for a fact.
That's fair.
But yeah, so we'll be dropping that. We're closing in. I think we're 6 episodes away from episode 100.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, we're going to have some special stuff just for that. You'll definitely want to be paying attention to that. And, yeah, so let's jump right in. Is there anything else we need to add on the transition there?
No, just be on the lookout. We've got some things that we know for sure are going to happen. The podcast name is not going to change, but we are going to be doing some rebranding as far as the logo and stuff goes. So if you're used to finding us in your podcast software or Spotify or wherever just by looking for those little cartoon caricatures of our ugly mugs, that will be changing. So don't be surprised when you see that change. It's still us.
Yeah. And then the easiest way to prevent losing us would be just to subscribe if you haven't.
Yeah, if you haven't subscribed and you're listening, please do. We don't make that pitch too often. There are a lot of the podcasts that I really enjoy and listen to every single episode. They are making a subscription pitch or a pitch for their Patreon so that you can financially support them. We don't do any of that, but it means a lot to us when you guys subscribe and hit that bell for notifications so you know when we drop a new episode. It does make a huge difference for us.
Yep. If you haven't yet, we need you to rate us more than ever. Those will really help us as we're kind of launched out on our own here in the coming weeks. So tell your friends, tell everybody about us. You can tell everybody.
Please don't. I mean, you guys can tell everybody, but I was asking Jason to please not sing that song.
Okay. Yeah. A big boy card sold.
Oh, yeah, it did.
A real big boy card. The Jordan Exquisite Logo Man 1 of 1 autograph
2003,
Yep.
I think.
V set. And it sold for a little over $2 million. What was it? 2.9.
2.984, almost $3 million.
So after the buyer's premium, over $3.
Yep.
Right. $3 million basketball card. Now, this is not a card you went to Walmart and grabbed a box and somebody pulled out.
No, it was an Exquisite, which at the time was about a $500 box, $450, which today, if that product was being released licensed, it would be a $10,000,
Yeah.
$12,000 box.
It would be less than Topps Transcendent.
Yeah, but Exquisite, I think, had 3 cards in a box, and Transcendent's like
Yeah.
80,
But
and it's in a big suitcase. And
are there $3 million cards in Transcendent? Has there ever been a card that big?
no, but there have been some, but no, not that big. But there's also a Transcendent box when you include the
Gold
meet and
frame
greet ticket.
stuff. Yeah.
Not too many people are losing their ass on a Transcendent box.
Really?
Yeah, not too many people. 80 cards, they're going to average about 140 to 150 bucks a piece.
Okay. Carry the 4.
No, what I'm saying is you're going to spend 20 grand on a Transcendent box, and realistically, your average outcome is going to be a
$8,000
$6,000 loss. But then you also time out. But then you get the ticket in the
Right.
box to the meet and greet, which you can then turn around and sell for about $6 or $7 grand.
Yeah.
So Transcendent, if you've got the dollars to splash around in it, from an ROI standpoint, is one of the better products out there. It's
Yes.
just such a big buy-in.
Yeah. And that's a lot of stuff to sell.
Yeah,
It's a lot
it
of
is.
cards to sell if you
It
want
is.
the money back. So, but anyway, yeah, monster card out of there. Once again, that was with Golden again, right?
Yeah.
So
Golden / eBay now.
Yeah. So that was a monster. You don't see much of that set anywhere.
No, because once it gets purchased by a collector, that's a set that not too many people are flipping. Like
Yeah.
that's a set that collectors are buying.
There are videos deep in the YouTubes when you like look at older stuff. You ever like find a channel and you're like go back and you're like, oh, this is early YouTube when the editing was trash,
Oh yeah.
the audio was questionable, but you felt like you were sitting in the room with everybody.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. It was a guy overseas. I think he was in China. I'm not positive. And he just had like pallets and cases of it where they rip it.
Yeah.
Have you seen those videos?
Oh yeah.
And it would be like cards that are now probably $1,500, $2,000, just like getting thrown off to the side like they're useless
Yeah.
base trash.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, oh, how much money did this guy have when he made
Yeah.
that purchase? So, filthy product. Let's give an update on where we are with the card challenge, and it also kind of parlays into a bigger conversation about sourcing cards at a certain price point. So, where we've left off, we'll bring everybody up to speed. I have not made a purchase since the Pennsylvania show when I sold the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Bill Walton auto.
Yeah.
I'm sure that would have been a 20% bump by now.
Yeah.
But I'm happy. I did good on it. So I've kept an eye out, but I honestly haven't been aggressively looking. I need to. You are in search of a card for $800. You made a couple moves.
I have been aggressively searching. So last time you guys heard us talk about this, I had sold that TJ Watt rookie auto. I turned around and bought a LeBron James rookie, a BGS 9 of a relatively one of his rarer rookies, not the most popular ones, but one of the rarer ones. And I bought it and sold it within 48 hours for about a 60% move up on it. I paid $5 for it and I sold it for $8. And now for 2 weeks, I've been trying to buy a card for $800. And I've been set up at 3 shows since then, and I have been to 4 or 5 shows since then. There's nothing.
Now, when you say nothing, you don't see any cards with those price tags on them?
I see very few cards with those price tags on them, and the ones that are price tagged that are actually like $400 to $500 cards. There is a dearth of that stuff right now. I'm going to
You mind
shows.
defining dearth for people?
There's not very much. It is a wasteland for that type of stuff. And when I go to shows and I see dealers with multiple showcases and 5, 6, 7 showcases, and those 5, 6, 7 showcases are filled with $20 to $70 cards. Like, that's the stuff that just sits in my value boxes. Like, it's weird. And the stuff I have seen has either been drastically over comps or super niche. Like, I probably could have bought a PSA 10 Tony Gwynn rookie. And
Which is a sweet card.
It's a sweet card, and it's a super low pop card, but it is not a liquid card. That is not a card that's going to sell quickly, which for the purpose of this challenge is the goal. I do not want to get lesson learned on the TJ Watt. Doesn't matter how cool it is. If it's not something that a lot of people are looking for, you're just kind of stuck till the perfect person comes along. And I think that leads to a bigger conversation, and you and I have both experienced repackers coming and buying from us. Some of these repackers, especially on the stuff that's in that range, which is going to be a lot of the downtowns, a lot of the kabooms, a lot of the bigger name color rookie auto type stuff. Some of these repackers are getting to the point where they're paying 94, 96. Like at Dallas, We The Hobby was paying 92%. That's really difficult for dealers to compete with, especially when you're buying from other dealers. Now, the only advantage we still have is that most of the collectors in the hobby that aren't dealers don't have access to those guys. And so there's still the opportunity for them to bring stuff to us at shows, at tables to sell. But it is having an inflationary effect on the hobby as a whole because Jordan Love's a perfect example right now. I've been trying to buy some Jordan Love stuff. I kind of wanted to buy a nice Jordan Love card for the challenge. There's nobody selling Jordan Love stuff that's worth buying that's selling it for less than 150% of comps right now.
And that's not much of an exaggeration. I mean,
No.
Gary exaggerates, but that's not much of one.
It's not. Even one of our favorite LCSs has a couple of Jordan Love lower end Jordan Love PSA 10s in their showcases, and they're $90, and you'd think, well, that's not too bad. And then you look at comps, and the last 20 comps are under $50.
Yeah, it's
like, there's nothing for me to do with that. Not a thing I can do with that.
I have a theory.
What's your theory?
This one's a little bit out there, and we're not the first podcast to talk about this, but a lot of hobby on Ultra Modern rides on a few key players driving the market. We've seen this over the years. You had the incredible quarterback class, Tua, Burrow, Herbert. You had basketball you had basketball. Well, I mean, just as they released.
Yeah.
You had Zion and Ja. Baseball last year. Or over the last couple of years. You have Gunnar, Corbin, Julio. Now,
Bobby Witt.
We are in peak baseball season.
Yep.
For the large part, those baseball names, the majority of them are drastically underproducing their value in the hobby.
Yeah, Bobby Witt and Gunnar Henderson are in the top 3 in the AL for MVP, and their stuff is 20% lower than it was last year.
Now let's talk about, I did not expect Julio Rodriguez to drop off. I did not expect Jordan Walker to be doing what
in the minors.
I did not expect Corbin Carroll to be.
I think Corbin Carroll's playing with a bad shoulder. That's
whatever the reason is.
Yeah.
I think that affects the LCS whenever they've stocked up. They're waiting for prime season, and now not everybody has every player, right? But those bigger cards of those new guys, they're not hot. I've been sitting on a couple of nice Corbins and a Jordan Walker. There's no interest.
No.
So I think that affects it. And then they're like, all right, what's next? Oh, well, football's coming up.
Right.
And so I think some people would rather just sit on it than try to move that quickly.
Well, but I'm even seeing it with basketball stuff. Like, you know me, I don't mess with basketball stuff too much. Even trying to buy, I thought, okay, maybe I'll take a shot at some Wemby stuff. Basketball season is for the most part over. The guys who should be the hottest right now are Tatum, Luka, Porzingis, Kyrie, the guys that are still playing in the finals. People aren't moving off of anything on this stuff, and it's very frustrating when you're literally just sitting on cash wanting to buy something, and there's nothing to buy. It's just what I'm hoping tomorrow at Xenia something walks up to the table.
So at 800, are you going to change your metrics on what margin you need?
Well, the bigger the price point, the smaller the margin can be.
But like what percent? Like, would you
ideally,
entertain a 90% offer?
90's really.
Let's say
difficult.
it's a Hall of Famer. It's not.
It would depend on the card.
Okay.
And to be frank, if it's a Hall of Famer, unless it's a Jordan insert that's super liquid, probably not. Because there's just too much risk. You've taken away any margin for error whatsoever at 90%. 80 to 85% is probably my cap. Would I love to be at 70 to 75? Absolutely. But for the right thing, 80 to 85. So giving people what they would get if they sold it on eBay. But 90%, like, I'm not running a repack business. Yeah. And the guys who are really eating up that segment of available cards right now. Especially the stuff that everybody wants, downtowns, kabooms, case hits, stuff like that.
Okay, so let's think about this. If we're looking for that card and we're looking for a little bit of margin, in the past, places that are really good for that are places that have a lot of that stuff. And they're like, yeah, let's move it. Yeah, I've got a little room there. It's not somebody that has one $800 card, right? They're probably hanging on to that. The problem is, from what I understand with these repackers, and it's not really a problem, it's just a problem for us with this challenge, they know that they're going to get 85 to 95% from somebody that's going to buy 50 of these cards at once. So why in the world would I make an exception for the one dude popping in when I can have a better relationship with that repack buyer at $10,000 a month in cards?
I agree completely. Here's where the challenge to that thought process comes in. Much like everything else in this hobby, I believe that this repack craze is cyclical. And eventually, manufacturers, aka Fanatics, are going to realize that if they don't do something, they're going to start losing money because the wax prices and singles prices are out of whack. The reason that repacks are so popular right now is I can buy into a repack and be guaranteed something.
Yeah.
And worst case scenario, usually I'm going to lose about 50% on my bet, right?
Yep.
On a hobby box, on average, I'm going to lose 80%. So why would I not just go to the repack? The issue is going to become that product is eventually going to start drying up because people aren't going to be ripping hobby. And
does this bring hobby prices down?
Well, I think long term, I think we've already seen it. I think it's going to be very interesting when Topps Chrome basketball and football come out this year, even though it's unlicensed. I think we are going to see the price point that Fanatics plans to have.
You think they introduce it where it'll be when it's not pajamas?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
I do. I think they want to see what the market will bear.
Yeah.
And I think that hobby boxes on Chrome, if Fanatics is smart, are going to be around $200, $200 to $250 for a hobby box, and go from there. I hope they don't do jumbos. I really do. I hope it's just hobby boxes, and call it a day. And if they can get the popular products, if they can get the wax prices to a point that makes sense for everybody, where buyers don't feel like they're getting hosed to buy hobby. Like, that's why Platinum Anniversary is such a popular product, because no, it's not super high-end, but it's a Chrome product. And if you buy a hobby box of it for $120, worst case scenario, you're probably going to lose $50 or $60.
Yeah.
That's your worst case scenario. And you have upside. With a lot of the stuff that Panini's done over the last few years, and even Fanatics has done with Bowman since they took over, there's no real upside unless you get super lucky.
Yeah.
So I hope to see that little prediction come true.
Yeah, I gotta wonder at what point. So, yes, I could see people moving towards repacks, but then also
they already are.
Well, is it a problem for Fanatics? I'm not so sure, because at some point you need new product. People want a hit out of the recent stuff, or these repack products are going to get labeled as a few years behind, right? That's what's happening now is, and there's too many, but these companies have different lines of products for them. It's not going to be easy for them to maintain that.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying.
That's
if product isn't getting ripped, then they're going to have a hard time stocking their repacks.
And they just need the hits, which makes it even harder for them to find it.
And so if what I'm saying is the way that the ecosystem of the hobby is moving right now, the one piece that manufacturing has control over that they can continue to keep the hobby pumping along is wax pricing.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm Fanatics, if I'm any company putting out large quantities of stuff, the goal should be to maximize volume, not squeeze every penny out of every unit.
Yeah.
And I think Fanatics understands that just based on what I've seen over the last 2.5 years, what they've done with Topps. It'll be interesting to see how it continues to progress.
Yeah. My thought is in some ways it's like when you first get into cards again, okay? So you have a collection, you get back in, and then you get a little bit serious about selling cards. Well, you have a war chest, right? And these guys are finding, like, people like me. I'm the ideal candidate, and you even more so, but I set up at shows. I don't have all this overhead. I want to move cards. 85% is going to get it done all day long. But with this ultra modern stuff, if less is being ripped, it's going to be harder to find. And do these repack products kind of die off a little bit over time? Is it going to be hard to keep the quality up on that?
Well,
especially with the ultra modern piece.
If people aren't ripping, yes. And I think that's the thing. But again, it goes back to, so We the Hobby is a great example of this. They're probably outside of Hit Parade, they're probably the next like higher end repack product. They'll run a repack show and packs are $800. The floor is $400 and the ceiling is $5,000. Why would I spend $800 on a Bowman Jumbo?
Yeah.
Why would it even enter my brain? Why would I spend $1,200 on Prism NBA Hobby?
So in that regard, is that good for the collector? Because if it's a more sizable presence in the hobby, it's something that Fanatics will have to think about when it comes to their price points?
I think that...
You see what I'm saying?
I do, but I also think this goes back to something we talked about a few weeks ago. True, like, collectors, like the guys who buy stuff they like with no intention of ever selling it or anything else, is about 10% of the people in this hobby. It's not a big portion of the hobby. Most of the people in this hobby are either degenerate gamblers or they're guys like us who we buy stuff because we like it, but we're also planning to sell it, and we have a few random things that we PC. But even the stuff that we PC, if somebody offered us enough money for it, we would sell it.
Yeah, most of it, yeah.
Right? Like, I think that those two categories are the vast majority of the hobby, with the actual just like pure hoarding collector about 10%. Mm-hmm. And the hoarding collector isn't buying this stuff anyway.
Yeah.
That person's also not buying hobby boxes. They're going to shows and they're digging through dime boxes for hours at a time and handing over the guy from the table, here's your $8 for the 4 hours I just sat at your table.
Yeah.
Right? So the ecosystem in this hobby is not driven by the true collector. It's driven by the speculator.
Mm-hmm. I don't like how that sounded.
Why?
I don't agree that it's 10%, but I do think it's a large majority. I think 10's a bit aggressive.
10% as the true collectors that don't plan to ever sell the stuff they buy?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't. I think about it shows when you're set up and the guy. Well, true collectors don't look at comps. True collectors don't care. They see something they like.
That's not true.
If it's a rare card, a true collector already kind of knows what it's worth.
Well, if they know what it's worth, then they don't have to look it up, obviously.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. The true collectors kind of do. The guys who are Everybody else is speculating on some level.
So here's where I think you're missing it.
Okay.
Some of that percentage. So a chunk of that percentage. And we have a ton of people in this category that are absolutely hustlers and flipping it. But I think about, like I've mentioned him in the show before, my nephew Grayson that collects cards. He is a new generation of kids that are being introduced to collecting cards. I think it happens less with like teenagers and older, but there's a lot of kids that are just going to the local shop, digging through the dollar box and collecting their favorite players. And I think that the number of young kids doing this with their dads, I think that's growing. Now, 10 years from now or 6 months from now, that maybe he goes, oh, I want to sell all this and move this and that. That's inherently wrapped in with the hobby somewhat. So I
Sure.
kind of see where you're coming from with it. But I also think that there's still a lot of people that just buy what they like. I have a few of them at the show every time. I don't know if I wouldn't say that it's probably even, I doubt it's even 25%, but I think there's still some people that collect. But the hobby has become less about collecting and more about investing. And
Well,
I think you're right
I
about
think
that.
everybody collects, but the hardcore. What I'm saying is the hardcore, and we all know who some of these guys are, at least around here, because they come to shows. The guy who's like, I just buy this. This is my team. I'm digging. There's a guy that comes to every show in Central Ohio. He will dig through every box you have, and he'll buy every 49ers card you have in your $1 box. Commons, doesn't matter. He'll buy them. If he doesn't have them, he'll buy them. He's never going to sell them.
Mm-hmm.
That's 1 out of 100 people that come to your table. That's what my point is.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not the norm by any stretch. The norm is people buying something with the hope that at some point it's worth more than they paid for it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know that was a disagreement so much after hearing you spell it out a little bit for us. But yeah, it's interesting what's happening with that. So I'm still on the lookout for a good deal at $400. You're still on the lookout a good deal at $800. I probably need to make a couple moves before you to close in the gap.
It doesn't even have to be a great deal. Like, the higher, we were talking about this, the higher you get price point wise in this challenge, the less margin you can expect, and that's fine. I can't buy at 90%. I have no margin for error whatsoever at 90%. But 80 to 85, yeah.
Yeah. 85, I would consider 90 if it's like Jordan.
If it's something that's unbelievably rare that I know I can move really fast.
Filthy patch.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's somebody that's a huge PC person for everyone out there. So yeah. Okay. Let's talk. I've made a little bit of a shift in my business here with the cards. I want to talk through what I'm doing, and it's not, if you're in this hobby at all, you've heard about this, but I've actually been able to get it up and running, and I'm kind of excited about what I'm seeing so far. So this is like my 1 week of running with Card Dealer Pro 2.0. With the Rico FI 8170 scanner, and setting up an eBay store. So, if you remember my story, I've collected for a little while, started getting into shows with Gary, setting up at those, began doing that more and more, did not want to mess much with cards on eBay because of issues in the past with claims and all that. I stopped selling on eBay before the, standard envelope policy was in place where you're protected on cards of $20 and you can ship them with a standard envelope. So the low end game didn't really exist as I was selling. As I've been doing more and more cards, I would sure love, like a gold mine for this year is that my primary income with reselling, flipping, whatever you want to call it, is cards, and the other things kind of fade out unless I find something really cool I want to sell. So I've set up a separate account on eBay, the Ball Card Store, if you want to check it out. I've been running scans through, figuring out the scanner, all this. I've got like 1,500 items up already. Some slabs, but I would say like 95% of what I have is $1 to $3 cards. You drop these cards in the scanner, spits them out. I do a batch of like 50. You label them. It basically creates a CSV. You upload the file to eBay, and you instantly have, it's no time.
50 listings, yeah.
Yeah. I think it is changing the way that low end stuff is going to happen. I think there are a lot of people doing what I'm doing. eBay is about to be flooded with it. I think it's going to drive the prices down a little bit on that, but for right now, it's awesome. It's not hard to do, but if you don't like messing technically with things or doing tedious things like, this morning I'm only on like day 4 of running the store, and I had about 30 envelopes that I had to pack up and ship and label and top load and tape down and all that kind of stuff. So,
and how many listings are in your store after a week?
I'm over 1,500 since Tuesday, so we're not like 5 days in. It is very realistic to have a store of about 200,000 cards, 200 to 500,000. I don't think that's crazy. I'm kind of saying a lot of different things spraying everywhere. Here's the big thing that I realize. When it comes to being a dealer, buying and selling, you need to consistently be able to buy things at a margin. Like that will single-handedly ruin you if you can't get a good margin on your stuff. And sometimes that happens with nice cards. And it can happen quite a bit. It's getting harder and harder locally to find that unless it like walks up to your table or you have somebody that you regularly work with. You know what's not hard? Finding a collection with a crap ton of $2 to $5 cards and paying about 30 to 50 cents a card on it. Or if you want to play the game, 10,000 $1 or $2 free shipping cards for 10 cents a card. It's not hard to find it.
Right.
I went on Facebook Marketplace this week, found a collection. This guy he had like 10 boxes. There was a lot of stuff I didn't want to mess with, but I built out a 4-row and then a few other 2-row boxes of all the best stuff that was in there. And I think I'm in for like 30 cents a card. And there's a lot of like $3 to $7 cards in there. I'm going to kill it on that.
Oh, and there were a few that were even better than that.
Oh, a lot better.
Some Brady
rookies. Like vintage Hall of Fame stuff, like from the 70s baseball. Condition is bad on them. There's some early 50s baseball in here, but they're the right names, so they're going to sell. So I don't know, man. This has got me cautiously optimistic. My big play would be this. I would love to have a volume store of low-end stuff, consistently moving a few hundred cards a day, and then take that revenue and buy my nicer stuff with it. And then card shows are pretty much just going to be showcases for me. Maybe I set out 1-2 row box, some interesting stuff, oddball stuff, or stuff that just moves wherever I am. So Reds, Buckeyes, whatever. It's early. There's a lot to learn. Like the systems are going to be everything. Like cataloging, shipping is like being as efficient as possible with shipping is going to make or break me.
Yeah, that's the part that makes me nervous about trying to tackle what you're doing with it. Is just the idea of printing 200 shipping labels a day and packaging 200 cards a day.
It's the packaging. Because you can bulk, like all of these cards individually, you're going to be at that standard rate as long as it's under 3 ounces in a normal size envelope. So if I have 150 of those, I just hit print. It runs all of them, one big long tape. But yeah, then you got to pack them in the envelope. There's ways to do it that are more efficient than others. I'd say too, like if you're getting into this, be careful. There's products out there that are like advertised as being ideal for this. Like for example, there's companies making rigid envelopes. A lot of companies use, like Burbank uses these rigid envelopes. There's also a ton of people that sell this stuff that say those rigid envelopes tend to have more non-machinable returns. So you really have to weigh it out. The other eBay store I have 100% positive feedback. There's no way this is going to happen when you're selling to cheap people.
Well, I think if it was me, I would probably, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but is the recommended shipping method a card saver taped inside some type of a greeting card or a thank you card and then into the envelope? And
you can use a top loader now.
Oh, you can?
They're not getting flagged. Now like a patch card, that might be a little different. I would do a card saver on that. But the qualifications are under 1/4 of an inch thick.
Okay.
So I don't know if they actually mean that. I think I would try to shoot for under 1/8 of an inch on that.
Which a standard top loader is.
Yeah. So I just top loader, painter's tape over the top of the top loader, a sheet of paper folded around it. I tape the top loader to the sheet of paper, and then I drop it in a number 10 envelope. And and I put a 4x6 label and a Fragile sticker on it and send it off. The Fragile sticker is honestly peace of mind that they see I made an effort, and I'm not trying to do that. But when somebody complains, like, they're gonna probably just get a refund. If they start doing it regularly, I'll just block them.
Right.
But I'm not gonna do a return on a $2 card. Like,
doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense. So, if you've ever thought about it, maybe you have a ton of cards. You're like, man, I wish I could move these, but I don't want to give them away. Man, it's an investment on the front end. So, like, the scanners are not cheap, but they're not crazy. I think you're going to see them between $600 to $800. That better well pay for itself pretty quickly, or you're doing something wrong if you don't have those cards. And then there's a monthly subscription, a few different options that you have with Card Dealer Pro. And then you have your eBay store fees too. So you have to stay on top of it or you're going to lose money. But if you make an effort, you'll really do well.
And that's like anything else in this hobby. Like, very rarely are you going to just hit a lottery ticket. This is work.
Yep. Sports Card Radio did an interview with Burbank talking about how they mostly move tons of singles. And make no mistake about it, they still have who knows how many tens of thousands of dollars walking in at 70% of cost every day on the bigger stuff. But they move 3,000 to 5,000 low-end cards a day out of their store.
Yeah.
Which
is insane.
And he basically implied, like, if we didn't have that, we'd be in trouble. That's a lot of money.
His whole thing was, we decided a long time ago to make sure that our business was not reliant on vendors. It wasn't reliant on allocations. It wasn't reliant on distributors. We have wax, but our business is selling single cards to collectors.
Yeah. Yep. So it's smart. I'll keep you all updated on how that's going. I'm trying to get Gary to jump on board here and at least consider it. You should at least do a store. I mean, you should do one with like lower end stuff and just see,
Yeah. I mean, I don't have an issue with doing it.
I guess the other thing you could do would be, since you're not doing all those dollar boxes, you could just unload those to me at a really cheap price.
I haven't set up a $1 or $2 box at my table in 3 shows now.
Hey, I mean, donate it to the
and
business.
It has made no impact on my sales.
Wow, it sounds like you could get rid of those for nothing.
I don't know about nothing, but sure.
What would you pay for bulk $1 cards?
Usually about 30 cents a piece.
Oh, really? 30?
Well, you got to remember, my dollar box is stuff that you'll put on there for $2.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
My $2 box is stuff that you'll put on there for $3 to $5.
We'll see. See how it's getting more expensive as we go.
No, that's just how my boxes
Would you
are built.
believe it, listeners at home, wherever you are, that not even 2 days ago, his price per card was 10 cents on the phone when we talked to me. And
when you were buying
when
you were buying a giant bulk lot sight unseen without knowing what was in it. Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
When the guy started letting you dig through it and build out your own stuff, that comes a different ball.
The price went up real quick.
Yeah, of course it did.
But I think it panned out. So yeah, that's it. It was a little bit of a ramble about this, but I'm really interested to see what's going to happen on eBay. The other option you have too is with Card Dealer Pro 2.0, you can also link it directly to your own Shopify. So say you want to cut eBay out and just market your own website with the money that they would get in fees, which is consideration. You probably need to have a following already.
I would say so.
And you're cutting yourself out of the largest online marketplace next to
right.
No, it is the largest because of international. I don't know. For collectors, there's definitely no competition. So, it's definitely something to consider. I'll keep you updated on it. I have a feeling within a month I'll be like, oh my gosh, I spent 3 hours shipping, and then I'll be like, yeah, but you're making like $200 a day on $1 cards.
Yeah, no. If I'm spending 3 hours a night on shipping, but I'm profiting $200 to $250 a day, yeah, okay, I'll do that all day long. But what I don't have any interest in doing is spending an hour and a half on shipping for $35 in profit. Yeah. I don't want to do that.
That would be really slow.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. So, and then I have the advantage of potentially having child labor in my home. So,
correct. I do not. My child labor is now adults giving their labor to other people, not me.
Yeah. That was really structured weirdly, that sentence.
Okay. Sorry.
Show-wise, what do you have coming up? I've been out of the show loop a little bit. I was out of town last week. Next week, I will be at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, you're going to Pinehurst. Are you setting up anywhere this weekend?
Setting up on my couch.
Yeah, so no. I'll be at Xenia tomorrow, and then next weekend is the Huntington, West Virginia, the big 3-day mall show that they do a couple times a year down there. I've not done it before. I've heard great things about it, and our friends Marcus and Noah twisted my arm and got me to come down there, and we're set up. I think we've got an end cap, so they have 2 tables, I have 2 tables, and we'll see how that show plays out. I've got some cool
There's
stuff
a
as
million
usual.
shows next week.
Yeah. Well, there's a million shows this week, too. Midwest Monsters this weekend over in Indianapolis.
What else is locally, like Columbus area? Anything this week?
Xenia. That's
Xenia,
about it.
Yeah.
Canton, Emilio and Sons is Sunday.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all I have to say. So we will not be here next week.
Yeah,
I'll be
because
out of town.
you are on a golf course
I'll be over here.
somewhere.
I'll be over there like this.
Golf clap.
That's a golf clap. Let me explain what's going on there. And then we'll be back again, changing out of the network. You're going to see different stuff from us. I think it's going to give us a lot of opportunities we hadn't considered before. And we ain't going anywhere.
Nah, we'll be here.
Story. You're stuck with us. This has been the Ball Card Show, the Esports Podcast.
For the Esports Collector.
Bye now.
Peace.